Palestinian officials reported Tuesday the death of 2 people during a new Israeli attack on a refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. In Germany, at least 7 people were injured after a fire broke out in a nursing home in the city of Munich. And Pope Francis marks Christmas Eve on Tuesday with a special ceremony launching Jubilee 2025, a year of Catholic celebrations set to draw more than 30 million pilgrims to Rome. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Palestinian officials reported Tuesday the death of 2 people during a new Israeli attack on a refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, 53-year-old Kawala Ali Abdullah Abdo was killed during the airstrike at the Tulkarem camp, while 18-year-old Fatih Said Auda Ubaid was fatally shot in the chest and abdomen. On the other hand, the Israeli military said in an official statement that it had eliminated a terrorist in close combat during the raid. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 805 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by Israeli forces or settlers since the Zionist war on Gaza began. Israeli artillery has shelled the 3rd floor of the Al-Auda hospital in northern Gaza's besieged Jabalia refugee camp as the siege of the occupation forces on the Indonesian hospital continues in Beit Lahija. The Israeli army has detonated remote-controlled explosives in the barely functioning Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Beit Lahija, injuring at least 20 patients and medical staff. Meanwhile, also in Beit Lahija, Israeli soldiers are forcing wounded and sick people to leave the Indonesian hospital. According to Gaza's health ministry, at least 21 people have been killed and 51 injured across the region in the past 24 hours as a result of the attacks on the health facilities. So far, Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed at least 45,338 Palestinians and wounded 107,764 since October 7, 2023. Famine has spread across war-torn Sudan and is projected to expand even further, with refugee camps and displaced communities hit particularly hard. The information was provided Tuesday by a United Nations-backed assessment made by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, which said that 638,000 people face today catastrophic levels of hunger, with a further 8.1 million on the brink of famine. Sudan is reeling from 20 months of fighting between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces led by rival generals, which have led to a dire humanitarian crisis. According to the report, 24.6 million people, representing around half of Sudan's population, are projected to face high levels of acute food insecurity between December and May.
The situation was not safe at all. When the army entered, there were gunshots, and a lot of chaos occurred. I immediately took my children and walked to the Joda border with others, because we needed a safe place for our children.
This place 2 weeks ago was almost empty. We built a reception center to accommodate few hundred of people. Currently, we have over 5,000 refugee and returnee who are staying at the border, and many of them also staying at the roadside connecting Ranktown with the border. People are arriving currently from 6 border points, and that requires scaling up of all resources, all our capacity to be able to assist them. People are staying with the community, sharing very limited resources with everyone.
In Germany, at least 7 people were injured after a fire broke out in a nursing home in the city of Munich. According to the fire department, the injured are currently in a hospital receiving medical attention. However, the severity of their injuries is not known at this time. In this context, it was reported that about 60 people were evacuated from the building, since part of it is still on fire and the roof began to collapse. According to authorities, the causes of the incident are still unknown, and an investigation has been opened to clarify the facts. In the Philippines, the government banned Christmas celebrations in some cities near the Kanglaon volcano after several days of volcanic activity in the area. Since the eruption of the volcano earlier this month, thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes in the vicinity of the mountain. In this regard, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology raised the alert on the volcano to number 3 out of 5, implying that magma is near the surface, which could trigger a dangerous eruption in weeks. On the other hand, other municipalities affected by Kanglaon eruption, such as La Castellana or Bago, organized several Christmas activities for the evacuees. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, some regions were cut off and more than 170,000 people are left without power supply due to the snowstorm sweeping through the country. Despite efforts and continuous work to repair the faults, the electricity supply situation worsened due to the devastating weather phenomenon. In this sense, in the western part of the nation, a state of emergency was declared after severe weather blocked all entry and exit points to the municipality of Dravar, cutting off its 17,000 residents. In addition, due to heavy snowfall, classes have been cancelled in elementary schools in Banja Luka, the second largest city in the country. Likewise, a day earlier, classes were also postponed in around 70 elementary and high schools in the northwest of the country, where a red alert is in effect. The Chinese government rejects the U.S. defense authorization bill on the grounds that it contains negative content against the Chinese people. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said that China firmly opposes the plan signed by U.S. President Joe Biden, as it intends to portray Beijing as a threat. The spokeswoman rejected the U.S. military support to Taiwan and urged Washington to abandon its Cold War mentality and ideological prejudices and to respect the One China principle. In this regard, Mao Ning reiterated that the country will take firm measures to defend its national interests.
The U.S. insists on signing into law the National Defense Authorization Act for 2025, which contains negative content related to China. Year after year, it exaggerates the so-called China threat, promotes military support for Taiwan, abuses national power to suppress China's technological and economic development, restricts China, U.S. economic and trade and people-to-people exchanges, damages China's sovereignty, security, and development interests, and interferes with efforts to stabilize relations. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to this, and has made solemn representations to the U.S. side.
On Tuesday, according to the South Korean Ministry of the Interior and Safety, the country has become a super-aged society, a concept defined by the United Nations as the proportion of citizens aged 65 or older accounts for 20% of its population. The number of Koreans in that age group reached 10,245,550, accounting for 20% of the nation's total population of 51,221,286. The United Nations classifies countries where over 77% of the population is 65 or over as an aging society, those with more than 14% as an aged society, and those with more than 20% as a super-aged one. Since the late 1980s, the proportion of the older adult group has rapidly increased amid the country's declining birth rate. With its total fertility rate below 1, the world's lowest level, Korea is expected to feel the social and economic impact of the drastic demographic change in the coming decades. The Russian government exposed the activities of U.S. biological laboratories on the African continent. The Kremlin pointed out that Washington is using the African continent as a testing ground for experimental drugs. Moscow denounced that the White House maintains activities with biological weapons without measuring the risk involved in African states in order to make use of them as military tools. Furthermore, Russian authorities warned countries of the region about their cooperation with the United States, since this implies a loss of their national sovereignty in the matter of biosecurity. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Panama workers protest in front of the U.S. Embassy following threats by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to take over the Panama Canal. In this way, the workers defend the ownership of the interoceanic waterway, affirming that the canal will continue to be Panamanian patrimony. The union groups demand that the next president of the United States respect the sovereignty of the Central American country and ratify the rejection of any foreign interference. The leader of the Construction Workers Union indicated that the people of Panama have rejected on several occasions the attempts of appropriation of their national territory.
Panama is a sovereign territory. The Panamanian people exercise their self-determination. Here there is a canal, and it is Panamanian. Donald Trump and his imperial delirium cannot claim a single centimeter of land in Panama. At the beginning of 1903, the construction of the canal, the U.S. military presence and the adjacent lands were handed over in perpetuity by the oligarchy willing to sell its homeland. This was recovered in the streets by the Panamanian people with their generous blood. January 9, 1964 is the most important glorious deed, but there were other types of acts that took place. For example, the rejection of the 1947 Philos-Hines Treaty was also forged from the streets. All acts of surrender and sellout, the Panamanian people have rejected it permanently and forcefully.
The Cuban government continues to achieve social justice goals despite the U.S. economic blockade imposed against the Cuban people. In this regard, while speaking at the 65th anniversary ceremony of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, President Miguel Díaz-Canel highlighted the achievements of the Cuban Revolution in the international arena by positively influencing Latin America, the Caribbean, and other regions. The Cuban leader pointed out that the world expects from the nation an active role in the defense of social struggles against imperialism and all its forms of discrimination. Díaz-Canel also underlined that several international observers, both friends and adversaries of the country, recognize the influence that the island has had at a global level.
Cuba has been and continues to be a beacon of dignity. The difficult times we experience will demand from you and from all of us to be more and more at the level of the heroic people to which we have the privilege of belonging. For those people who deserve everything, let us work tirelessly and creatively for victory. Homeland or death, we will triumph.
On Tuesday, the government of Nicaragua, through an official communique, expressed its support for the president of the Bolivarian nation of Venezuela and emphasized the brotherly ties that unite both nations. The communique reads as follows: "In these very special hours, we join the beloved people of Bolivar, Chavez, Nicolás, Cilia, Delcy, Diosdado, Jorge, everyone in the true affection of a family that loves each other and unites strength from the great spirit that enlightens and guides us to continue walking." It further reads, "We thank the God of all triumphs for this brotherhood that we are, and we are sure we will continue to encourage, opposing love and peace to all selfishness, to the misfortunes of the human condition, which wants destruction, division, weakness." Finally, it concludes, "In the face of darkness shines the light, shines the peace, shines the integrity of a consciousness that grows every day to advance in the best and overcome what no longer belongs to this world we inhabit, with a duty to transform it and to transform ourselves in the continuity of the battles and in the building of all the victories. all the good things, health, harmony, and unwavering brotherhood. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our multi-platform in Daily Motion at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Pope Francis marks Christmas Eve on Tuesday with a special ceremony launching Jubilee 2025, a year of Catholic celebrations set to draw more than 30 million pilgrims to Rome. The 88-year-old pontiff opened the holy doors of the St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican at 7 p.m. local time in front of 30,000 people and in a live TV audience around the world. Organized by the Church every 25 years, the Jubilee is intended as a period of reflection and penance, and it is marked by a long list of cultural and religious events, from masses to exhibitions, conferences, and concerts. The Jubilee will conclude with the closing of the same holy door on January 6, 2026. Some 700 security officers have been deployed around the Vatican and Rome for the celebrations, with tightened measures following Friday's car ramming attack on a Christmas market in Germany. During his Christmas Eve homily, the Pope said he hoped the year ahead would be a jubilee for our Mother Earth, for the poorer countries, and for all of those who are suffering any form of slavery, old and new.
Sorelle e fratelli.
Brothers and sisters, this is the Jubilee. This is the season of hope in which we are invited to rediscover the joy of meeting the Lord. The Jubilee calls us to spiritual renewal and commits us to the transformation of our world, so that this year may truly become a time of jubilation. A Jubilee for our Mother Earth, disfigured by profiteering, a time of Jubilee for the poorer countries burdened beneath unfair debts. A time of Jubilee for all those who are in bondage to forms of slavery old and new.
5 years after a fire in 2019 nearly destroyed Paris' beloved 12th century cathedral, Notre Dame is once again celebrating Christmas Eve Masses. 4 different Masses were taking place Tuesday, with a midnight Mass to be led by the Paris Archbishop Laurent Ulrich. The first 2 Masses of the day drew some 2,000 people each, many worshippers, others there to walk inside and gaze at the richness of the restoration. There were no reservations, just a long queue on the forecourt of the cathedral. Following the 2019 fire, nearly $1 billion in donations poured in from around the world, a tribute to its worldwide appeal.
They did such an amazing job. It looks beautiful. I saw it once before many, many years ago, and so it's just really special to be back and just see all the hard work that's gone back into it. It was really nice. Blew us away. It's a really special night. It's really a nice thing to be a part of.
So it's so incredible to be here inside for the first time. I was here 5 years ago, but I was here right after the fire, so I did not get to come inside. So to wait to come inside to be with these guys was really, really amazing.
In Mexico, thousands of tourists and local residents crowded a small square in downtown Oaxaca to see traditional Christmas radish sculptures. The colorful festival, known as the Noche de Rábanos, or the Night of the Radish, is a 127-year-old tradition that takes place ahead of Christmas Eve. Talented artisans cut, peel, carve, and grate radishes to create religious scenes or figurines resembling famous characters. The radishes used at the festival are specially grown for this event and harvested days in advance. According to local legend, farmers began decorating their vegetable stands with figures carved out of radishes, cauliflowers, leaves, and flowers to attract customers, thus giving birth to this tradition. The festival also includes a fireworks display, music, and dance.
It's quite a long, laborious job, more than anything patience to be able to create it and capture that feeling so that the figure can emerge.
It's really amazing and also really strange at the same time. But the amount of detail and obvious attention, but I really have to say I love how there's so many references about Oaxaca. You know, the mezcal and in the fields with corn and like all the Mexican references in the art.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.